You're listening to Global Methodist Voices, stories from North Georgia. We're so excited that you're back with us for another week. If you have not listened to one of the previous episodes, as soon as you're done with this one, go check out one of the ones we've had before. We've had a great number of guests, and it's just been an honor and a blessing to help get to share the stories of what God is doing in the Global Methodist in North Georgia and to the ends of the earth. And so, we've heard from our bishop who's from Nigeria. We've heard from campus ministries that are approved. We've heard from, um, laity from a local church. We've heard about discipleship and annual conference, and there's so many things. And actually, today's guest was in the live from annual conference one. He is, to some degree, my doppelganger, and it's been a joy. We've actually gotten to be in a group together. We hang out, and so there's no confusion who's who there, but at annual conference, there's still generally a little bit of confusion. But today, I have my good friend Matt Abel with me. Matt is he's at Canton First Global Methodist Church, and he is the family discipleship. There's a bunch of words in his title there, but he also he chairs the Emerging Generations team with our conference. So welcome to Global Methodist Voices, Matt.
Glad to be here.
Well, first and foremost, I think it's interesting. You're not from Georgia, so can you give a little bit of your background, kind of where you grew up, and maybe some where you went to school, that kind of stuff?
Sure. Yeah, I'm originally from Kentucky. Moved down to join Canton First team just almost 2 years ago. Started October 1st of 2023. So I'm from Kentucky, originally the Hardin County, Elizabethtown, E-Town area, but kind of jumped around with different appointments. So I went to undergrad at Lindsey Wilson. Well, Lindsey Wilson College when I went there. As of earlier this month, it's now Lindsey Wilson University, which is really exciting for um, those of us that know Lindsey Wilson, which is may not be a lot of people, but is a great school. Going there was actually really critical to my call to ministry and really just bringing me back to faith in Jesus. Lindsey's a 4-year United Methodist affiliated school. I didn't know what a Methodist was when I went there. It was just a private school that I'd heard about, was interested in, and really loved the campus, loved the small school atmosphere that they had. And when I was going into college, I was still kind of I was a follower of Jesus. My family was kind of in and out of church, and so was I. I wasn't really sure where I was going to land with my life. Wasn't really sure what I was going to do career wise yet, and through a great campus ministry there at Lindsay, came to Christ, accepted a call to ministry, and actually began serving 2 point charge while I was still there. It was the summer between my sophomore and junior year. I started serving a 2 point charge a county away, and the rest is history as it goes. So served there, finished my degree in Christian ministries at Lindsay, and then went on to Asbury Seminary. And yeah,
We love Asbury, so that's awesome. So,
course.
and then you got the call somehow. You connected with Kenny Ott over at Canton, and I guess he twisted your arm hard enough to bring you from where you were down to Georgia.
Yeah, it was if we still laugh when we think about it in our family because I was working on church planting in northern Kentucky at the time, and was still very early stages of that. And Kenny was our church planting coach. We were working with him, and he sent me an email and just it was kind of out of left field for me, although God had been putting it on his heart for several months, asking me to consider coming down and interviewing for this position here at Canton First. And that actually ended up being about 3 days before my son was born. And so it was a couple weeks where I was able to get back to him and say, yeah, let's go check out North Georgia, see what this is all about. Check out Canton, and my goodness, my son wasn't quite a month old when we first came down here, but we fell in love with the community, fell in love with the church, and just so excited to be down here and
That's
part of the North Georgia GMC family.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we've got a bit of a young clergy group started, and that's been good. It's kind of it's an evolving thing. So we're learning how to be in relationship with clergy too. So if you're laity or clergy and you're like, I don't really know how to be in community, yeah, we're all learning too. But Matt and I are being a part of that. Now, Matt, you also recently moved into the chair of the Emerging Generations committee, team, task force. I don't know. It's something. What is your experience with Emerging Generations? Like, what are y'all focused on? How's that work so far?
Yeah, so I started out with Emerging Generations just about a year ago, when the conference formed and all of that, and Kenny being right down the hall is kind of like, where do you want to get involved? And discipleship, family ministry is my passion. That's my role here, and that's where I like to be involved. And so we kind of hit the ground running right out of the gate with, we need some sort of confirmation retreat. It's kind of the first thing on our radar, which morphed into the Wesley Weekend retreat that we took it a little bit beyond confirmation, because we found out there are a lot of churches that a lot of churches do their own thing for confirmation retreat, and some churches do confirmation in the spring, some do it in the fall, and so it's kind of, doesn't always line up. And as a conference ministry, we want to serve the local church as best we can. We don't want to try and force anybody into a box. We want to be a resource. And so we developed a Wesley Weekend retreat, which was focused on just some of our core Methodist doctrine aimed at middle schoolers. It complements confirmation, but doesn't have to be confirmation related. And so that was kind of our first big project for our first year. And Latham Postel is the outgoing chair. He led us through that. He's actually still on the committee. Thankfully, we're thankful to still have his voice there. And it's just a great team. We accomplished, I think, a lot in a year. Very proud of what we were able to accomplish. We definitely could not have done it without so much support and encouragement from the churches across North Georgia, and just the work of the Holy Spirit. It was just incredible what God did, and to see God at work through the young people in the retreat. And we can talk about the retreat some more later if you want, but that was kind of the first big thing. And we're just a year into this, so we're still figuring out kind of what are the other things that we need to work on to support emerging generation ministry in the conference. So some of that is going to look like finding ways to support campus ministry, higher ed ministry, and other things beyond that. So
Yeah, that's good. No, we had the guys from the Awakening Collegiate Fellowship. So they North Georgia is now Awakening, and Georgia College is now, they were Awakening. And so those guys were on, and they were awesome. You should support them if you haven't already. But just the work that's happening in those two places is cool. I know you guys are looking at how to support. There's been some book of discipline discussions in the finance committee about those things, and all sorts of stuff. So it's just we're all learning how to do it, and I think y'all are doing it. I heard nothing but rave reviews about the Wesley Weekend, and so for us, Red Wine, we were going to come, but just all of our kids had a baseball tournament that weekend. So, which is just true of like every
that's
weekend
youth
for our
ministry.
kids.
Yeah.
But so give us a little bit of what that weekend looked like. I mean, I heard there was some bearded speaker there, and how did that weekend go?
Yeah. So I was our speaker for the weekend. That was quite quite a task. I really enjoyed doing it. It was a bit of a passion project, teaching Wesleyan theology and doctrine to middle schoolers, hopefully in a way that was accessible, that they were able to take some things from and see how it applied to their lives. But it was also, um, you know, preaching essentially 4 sermons on Wesleyan theology to middle schoolers in around 48 hours. It was kind of wild. So, not as young as I once was in that respect. But it was a lot of fun. And we had the worship team from Elizabeth Lee Methodist came and led worship for the weekend. Corey Shores from Canton First came and led worship Sunday morning, overlooking the mountains. The students were able to do some different activities around Camp Lookout, which is where we hosted the retreat, Camp Lookout. So some did the zip line, some hiking. We did marshmallows around the fire Saturday night. Just, we tried to cram in as much camp fun as we could, and also just some great worship and hopefully some okay teaching. I think one of the things that just struck me immediately, the very first night of the retreat is, we had groups coming. So we were up in the Chickamauga area at Camp Lookout. We had groups coming all the way from the Augusta area, traveling quite a ways to get there. They were delayed there's some city between Augusta and Chickamauga that has a lot of traffic. Don't know if you've
Yeah.
heard of it, but they were quite a
The
bit
the real
delayed.
the real small town in Georgia called Atlanta.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of it, but they, we kept pushing worship back, trying to wait till we had the whole group there. And so it's like getting kind of late. These students are all from different churches. They haven't really met each other before. They're in this odd place. They're in middle school, which is like the weirdest phase of life any of us goes through, right?
Yeah.
And um and also you're facing the reality of they may or may not know the songs we're singing because they all come from different churches, right? And all of our churches sing slightly different styles of worship and different song selection. But I'm telling you, like, the first song, the students were out singing the band, and it was like that the whole weekend. And not that that's totally a measure of everything, but it was just so good to just hear these students just worshiping with abandon, and just the spirit of God was in the room, and I just wanted to weep just hearing these students just give themselves in worship, even though they were tired. Some of them had been waiting around, as we were waiting on groups to arrive. Some of them had been, packed into cars, sitting through traffic, and none of that seemed to matter. They just were worshiping. It was really awesome to be a part of that, and just to get to see that. And it was like that the whole weekend. They were so great, and I'm excited to see what God's going to do through these emerging generations.
Right. Right. So, that's awesome. I want to say I'm surprised, but I'm not, the more that we hear the stories of God's faithfulness, where God shows up, how people understand worship and honor God. Honestly, I think our kids oftentimes get it better than we do.
Yeah.
Um, you know, we've started, and this is not the Red Wine podcast, but at Red Wine, once a month we have our kids in service, and our kids serve communion. And the first week was absolute chaos. I mean, just it was like, what idiot came up with this idea? And that idiot was me. And but now, I mean, you can't give the kids the communion elements with and have an adult be more reverent than they are. Um, I have kids that every Sunday morning they stay in the service until after we say the Apostles' Creed. I have one kid that like just about is on his face in reverence saying the Apostles' Creed. I mean, just like these kids get it, and there's doctrinal stuff that we got to figure out, but man, they're getting what it is to be worshipers, to be followers of Jesus, to celebrate God's goodness. So yeah, I think the hardest part is just like you can't fit quite that many youth in a gaga ball pit while you're waiting, so they have to take
Sure.
turns if there's one of those. But Now, how young would you say the emerging generations are? Like, do they emerge at like elementary school or middle, or are y'all really kind of going like middle up?
That's kind of that's an interesting question. I don't really, I feel like I should have a straight answer to that, but I don't. Um, you know, there's a, I would definitely say it goes to birth,
Okay,
and then
yeah,
I would, to some degree, because we want to be concerned with family ministry, kids ministry, and stuff as well. I think the question then becomes, kind of where's the ceiling of that?
yeah,
And that gets to be such a complicated question, right? Because um, the way I feel like there are a lot of milestones in just American life that used to be kind of like at the same time for a lot of people that have
right.
shifted a lot. And so you may have said like, "Oh, well, that's when you start having young kids." Well, you could be having young kids at 20. My
At
mom
mid
was in
40s.
her teens when she had me. Or yeah, you could be, in your 40s and having, babies. And so there's in some ways where you could be 2 decades removed from each other in age, but as far as phase of life and things you relate to could be very similar. So it gets kind of complicated, I think, where we draw those lines. Um, so I don't know, because all of those things, um, whenever we go through them, if we go through them, whether it's going away to college, moving out from our parents' house, getting married, having children, those things shape us, not just is in terms of our life, but I think they do shape us spiritually. And again, none of those things are required of any of us, right? There's folks who are called to singleness. There are folks that aren't necessarily called to be parents, but when we do those different things, they do shape us spiritually, I believe. I can just say from my own experience, having a 2-year old and another on the way, it's profoundly shaped me spiritually.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I mean,
so,
the it would take God really laying it on your heart to understand the love of a parent of a child without being a parent of a child. And God certainly can lay that on your heart. You can be an adoptive parent, you can be a surrogate parent, you could be a foster parent, right? And you'll
right.
understand what that looks, or you'll be a spiritual parent. But until you somehow parent more than a Tamagotchi, to take us back a little ways, you you don't understand the love of a parent of a child. So that whole God's love, the Father calling out him Abba, we don't get it
Yeah.
until sometimes I still don't think I get it, but at the same time, I get it better now that someone calls me dad. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it is a profoundly spiritual moment, not just a functional one, because kids say dad first, which is awesome. Um, but it's so it makes mom so mad, but yeah, they definitely say dad first. So well, so Wesley Weekend was awesome last year, and has so y'all have come off of it. You've had enough time to recover. All the old people that were volunteering have gotten enough nights. They've gotten to see their chiropractor enough now, right? Like they've had their adjustments and everything like that. Are you off the place where you're planning another one or planning something similar?
Yes, yes, we're absolutely going to be planning another one. We don't have dates yet, but it'll be, and probably don't have the location yet. Well, we definitely don't have the location yet. It'll be in the spring. We're not sure that we'll be able to make Camp Lookout work again because it was a fantastic camp. I would highly recommend it to any groups looking for a place to host a retreat. We're just not sure if there's enough room. We
Praise
came close
God
to
for that.
maxing it out, and so if we've got more folks coming, we're probably gonna have to find a bigger facility, which, yeah, that's great, thing to think about, and that's one of the first things our team will be talking about when we meet, in a couple weeks, to start laying the foundation for the spring.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I guess the next question is like, when's high school retreat? I mean, I'm just kidding. That's a lot of work, but I'm not kidding. But I'm kidding. But there's, I think one of the things that we have in the GMC that is really neat is, to some extent, there is the authority to walk into what God has called you to. And so,
And
to me, I do think that there is an opening in the high school realm for something. And yes, the emerging generations could be the group that plans it, but it also could be that someone had that laid on their heart, and the emerging generations could come alongside them, encourage them, equip them, and send them to be the people that lead that, right? We're not just
right,
uh, like, you're not paid for your work in your emerging generations role. None of the people that really made that happen were really paid. I mean, it was because God said it's time to do it, and functionally it made sense, and so you guys did it. So I think there's a piece of the GMC that I love, that we are lay led and we are volunteer run. I mean, there's only 2 or 3 employees of the conference, and everything else happens because of volunteers. Um, so if there's something that you're seeing like, oh, the GMC really needs to do this, ta-da! You may be named someone. Someone needs to do this. It's nice to meet you, someone. So
right.
there's that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the beauty of our connection is we're looking for creative ways to partner together in ministry and do things together, not necessarily just because it has GMC logo on it or a North Georgia Conference logo on it, but because it's valuable to us or to our students or our young people, whatever the case may be, whatever the ministry might be. Um, and so I think, well, we're all still really new to this. New to, the Global Methodist Church is still very new. The North Georgia Conference is even newer. So we're still kind of figuring out um, what what that looks like, and we're going to learn some lessons along the way, I'm sure, because it's not the way we did things in our former denomination. And there were great things about how we did things,
Mhm.
and that's one of the things we try to bring to our meetings is, okay, is this something we used to do? How did we do it? Was there anything we can take from that? Or are there things we should do differently? We don't want to throw it all out. If there's some good things to learn from, to keep from, different experience we bring to the table. But of course, we're not stuck in a, well, we've always done it this way, because, well, we haven't
We've
always done
hardly done
anything. We've only been
anything.
around
Yeah.
a couple years, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. No,
um,
that's good.
it's yeah, it's exciting, but it's also um, I guess it's a little scary at times, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, we're building the plane as we fly it, as they
No,
say.
no.
So
And one thing that your team really is tasked with, to an extent, I mean, the local churches are certainly tasked with it as well, but like, you and I are some of the youngest clergy um in the conference. There's a couple more of us that are, in the under 40 club. Not to say that anyone over 40 is bad or, you know done. Obviously, some of y'all are just getting. We have Mike Goodka on here, and he could be retired senior status, and dude is making waves and making disciples and running circles around us young guys. So age is not a big thing, but at the same time, like, part of the emerging generations is encouraging people like, hey, God might be calling you into ministry. Like, God may be calling you into increased service in your church. God may be calling you to uh, reach out and lead something that uh, is going to make a difference, going to make a disciple. Because that's what we say we're about. We say we're about making disciples who spread scriptural holiness. Like, if we're going to do that, we got to do that. So have you seen yet places where we can at least encourage young people to see that they may be called to ministry, and that is a legit place to go?
Yeah, so I think, um, as it sits right now, some of the best places for that to happen is in the local church, in our youth ministry, in our student ministry, and on our retreats, things of that nature, to have intentional moments where we invite the Holy Spirit to speak to kids and, or, hey, they said the term kid sounds derogatory sometimes. I don't mean it that way. Just young people. Invite the Holy Spirit to speak and to call, and to convict those that he might be calling into vocational ministry or into more extensive volunteer ministry, lay ministry in the future, whatever that might be. Um, but I think another thing um, I hope to see more of. So at Canton First, we work a lot with different interns. We have a student ministry intern every year, as long that we're barring the situation where we couldn't find one, but we intentionally seek out a student ministry intern. We've had a children's ministry intern the past couple years. We have an incredible um, staff member, Maddie Bryant, who started out as a ministry intern and became our ministry assistant. She's a student at Asbury. Right now, probably one of the youngest, if not the youngest seminarian that I've ever met, because she graduated from Reinhardt when she was 19 and went right to Asbury Seminary. Um, and so I think our local churches need to develop ways to create opportunities for people to serve, because that's where a lot of that discernment happens. I think of my call to ministry, um, and this is just anecdotal, my experience. Um, I'm not I'm not sure how I would have discerned a call to vocational ministry if I hadn't had the experience of being in a campus ministry where I was allowed to lead and allowed to um, make decisions, make leadership decisions, and get some teaching experience, some leadership experience, and allowed to make mistakes in a safe environment and just kind of feel out how God had gifted me and what I was being called to. Campus ministry was a great place for that for me, and it is for many, many people. Now, it's not the only place. We need other places as well, whether that's internships or what have you. But um, I think that's where we find those things out. If you never get the chance to do it, then it's always going to feel like something that is kind of out there, right?
Yeah. No, and I think about, from my call to ministry was a bit of a um not quite as murderous, but it was a little bit of a Saul moment, like driving through the middle of Iowa and God audibly spoke to me. So like that's my call story, and it's not a very common one, honestly. Um, a lot of it is actually more of like a Samuel story with Samuel and Eli in First Samuel, and so where we have moments where we've created internships, we've created this dedication to the Lord, we've set ourselves up to be around mature believers, right? And so then we hear from God, but we don't always know his voice. And sometimes the mature believer says, "Hey, that's not me calling you. That's God calling you. Go and say, speak, your servant is listening," right? Like,
Yeah.
and so, in the local church, but also on these retreats, and also, anywhere where there's these emerging generations, like sometimes we really need people who are going to be good guides that say, "Hey, no, what you're hearing is not indigestion. It's not the fourth bowl of ice cream you had before the worship service. Like, it's not, the car sickness you had on this crazy long ride. Like, no, you might actually be hearing from God." And so, say your servant's listening, like go see what God has to say, and God may give you bad news, right? Like that is, if you read First Samuel, it's First Samuel chapter 3 for anybody who wants to like grab an actual Bible and read. But he says like Eli's whole family's disgraced and they're not going to be allowed to be leaders anymore, and you're going to be the leader. Like that's the good news that Samuel heard. But he heard it because the old man Eli said, hey, I got to get out of the way, go hear what God has to say. And so I think that, Wesley Weekend, a retreat, campus ministry, a local church ministry, um, life on life discipleship, any of that really offers a place where people could hear, no, God really has a way to use you. And God may be saying, hey, I really want you to go into teaching. Hey, I really want you to go into firefighting. Hey, I really
Right.
want you to whatever. But having these places to allow the next generation to hear what God has for them, I think we've got to lean into making those places where that can happen. So, and I think the Wesley Weekend's a great step in that direction. We can say, "Speak, Lord, your servant's waiting," or, um, you know, "I'll go wherever I'm sent." The Wesley Covenant prayer.
Right. Right. Well, I think, a great thing that you're hitting on in that is, I've talked to a lot of lay people over the years who've had a sense of when you talk about things like emerging generation ministry or young family ministry or youth ministry, student ministry, they kind of feel left out. And they kind of feel like, well, you don't care about me. But there is such a place for uh, mature believers to speak into the lives of our young people. And our young people are craving it. I know our student minister at Canton First, Kayla D. Simone, she's done a fantastic job of when we have a confirmation class, she prays extensively and invites some older adults to be, and she pairs every student and mentor together and brings these older mentors into these students' lives to walk through confirmation with them. And I remember my first confirmation season here at Canton. We had our first couple classes without the mentors because I think we were still waiting on a few to get matched. And then we had a class with the mentors. The students were night and day different because they just felt so much more. They seemed at ease. They felt more comfortable because they weren't just looking around at a room full of their peers, but they also had these parental, uncle, aunt, grandparent figures around them who were just excited to be there with them and whose only job was to encourage them and to share their journey with Christ with them. It's huge. It's so impactful for our students. And so um, I think we've got to kind of break down some of those barriers between the generations because there's so much to offer one another. And that's the other thing we hear here is a lot of the mentors just rave about how impactful what it is for them to be a part of the class as well. And so, I think we're always quoting the verse, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young. You can say the same thing about not letting people look down on you because you're old. You still have things to offer
Right.
to the kingdom and to the younger generations. So,
Well, and that gets to Paul, and he says to live as Christ, to die as gain. Like, I'm old enough, it'd be better for me to die, but I still got work to do while I'm still here, right? Like, if
yes,
God, when God's done giving me work, then he'll let me be with him full time. But because he thinks it's better for you, I stay. Like, that is Paul. And that's what we have as, a faithful witness to us. Like, if you're old, that's awesome. Like, it's a gift not given to many. And so use it for the kingdom of God, and preparing the next generation to know the good deeds of God. So yeah, and I'll tell you, for us, one of the cool things with confirmation, we actually we had mentors in ours, but we also had adults in confirmation. So these were people that
okay,
either grew up in different denominations, didn't quite understand Wesleyan, or they were new to faith and they had never really, like, they loved coming to church, they loved the community, but they'd never really said, oh yeah, we actually believe this about, more of a systematic theology. And so we had them. It was so fun. And what it allowed was our old people, our older people, were first to ask questions, which was which allowed the young people to see, hey, we can ask questions. Like, it's cool. Old people ask questions too. So they asked questions, they
Yeah.
helped. And these were not like, define with perfect accuracy the Trinity. These were like, how many books are there in the Bible, would you guess? It's like there's 66. I'm not guessing. That's how many there are. And like, and but they asked some of the more simple, if you will, questions, but it was diffusing to the kids to then, okay, now our middle schoolers can ask questions because they know we don't have stupid questions in confirmation. We have questions that help us establish and deepen our faith, that we're going to actually confirm the faith that our parents had promised to establish us in. So that was cool. The other one is, we had a guy, and if you don't like us, don't like it, but we had a guy who was one of our mentors. Someone picked him, but one day they asked, why is the Bible important? Why does it matter? And do you have a Bible that is physically important to you? Like, yes, the Bible is generally the Word of God. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's perfect. Like, we love it. But he's like, this Bible means a lot to me. And he held up his, and they said, well, why? And he goes, well, I got this Bible when I was in prison.
Mm.
And he had been in prison, and I couldn't tell people what it was like to be in prison. But now these kids, their eyes got this big. They were like, what did he do to get put in prison? But now they get to have a relationship with somebody who they know, he's a safe guy. He's awesome, wonderful, like, amazing. But two, they know that your faith can develop even in the hard places. Like, that a Bible is what kept him sane and alive for the years he served in prison. And so
Absolutely.
it was a cool, cross relational thing. So I think, what I'm kind of gathering though is that while you're focused on the emerging generations, and that is kind of your call in this season, um, emerging generation ministry does not happen without a, a whole life ministry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, when I was in college, one of the things our campus minister would talk about is kind of the the challenge and the blessing of campus ministry being, your congregation changes every 4 years, right? Every 4 years, totally new congregation. Everybody's different. You don't obviously have that reality in the local church, but our congregation does change every 50, 60, 80 years, sometimes less than that, right? Like, none of us are getting out of here alive. We're going to live
Well,
again.
not worldly alive, but
Right,
yeah,
right, right. Alive
eternal
in
life.
Christ,
Yeah.
but there's there is an end to this earthly life that we are currently now living for every one of
Yeah.
us. And so we're all interim for however many years that is. And so emerging generations is just a way of saying, the church has to be concerned about the next generation or it's not going to be here, right? We have
Right.
to pass on the faith that was passed on to us. There were the reason we are people of faith is because someone before us was concerned about our generation, and people before them were concerned about their generation, all the way back.
Right.
And so that's the legacy of the church. If we get too focused on ourselves and what the church can do for me, and people like me or my generation or whatever, then we lose,
Right.
no matter what age we are, because we're gonna miss somebody.
Yeah. No, that's good. That'll preach for sure. So, all right. So you've got another Wesley-ish weekend. We'll call it whatever you guys call it next time. We're doing, we're trying to figure out what life looks like supporting and encouraging campus ministries. If you're watching this, support campus ministries. You can go look at the previous episode. You can go find them at Awakening North Georgia, Awakening Georgia College, and find them and support them. What Anything else that's really on the heart of the emerging generations team right now?
Those are the biggest things for the moment. We're gonna be kind of doing some brainstorming, um, towards what else God might be calling us to do. But part of what would be helpful to us, as a team, is if the conference can speak into us. What do you see as the needs, of your local church from the emerging generations team? Whether that's, what resources would help you with children's ministry, with student ministry, young adult college ministry, young family ministry, or are you just like, leave us alone? Whatever, whatever it is. You probably, I guess, I'll leave you alone if you don't tell me you need anything. I'm not
Yeah.
going to come pestering you, but yeah, it's helpful for us to hear from you, from the local church, what we could do, how we could support you, because that's ultimately what we want to do. If you know of if you've got a youth event happening, a student event happening, that you want shared out, we can find ways to make that happen as well, to help promote the things that are happening in North Georgia. We definitely want to be a part of that. And so, yeah, just please feel free to reach out to us. Um, my email, it's on the website. So if it's not on the conference website, it's on Canton First website. So you can get in touch with me anytime. And yeah, just let us know how we can help you, because we want to be about resourcing the local church. Um, every community is a little different. That's why God's raised up all of our churches to be about the work of spreading scriptural holiness and making disciples, in across North Georgia, in all of these different communities in which our churches are located, because they have different needs, they have different realities, and so whatever we can do to support you where you are, let us know.
That's so good. Matt, thanks for being on the podcast. We're so glad. We're thankful for your leadership and what you're doing with the emerging generations, and obviously what's happening over at Canton First. And, you know, I'm excited. Uh, I think God is moving in the lives of our young people. I think He's moving in the lives of our old people, and so and everything in between. And so, uh, be on the lookout, North Georgia. If you're watching this, be on the lookout for the next Wesley Weekend. You can head over to the North Georgia GMC website. There will be stuff coming up there eventually. It's not there yet at the day of release. It's not going to be there, but watch there, watch on social media, check back frequently and just see when that's coming up, so your church doesn't want to miss it. I heard it was a don't miss event for next year. So Matt, go ahead, and you're gonna have to find the bigger venue, because I hope that we have more churches, more people coming. And thank you for leading that. If you want to go and support campus ministries, please go do that. I know that they are ramping up in the summer as we record. They're ramping up for what fall ministry is going to look like, what budgets. I know they've got new places they're meeting in. I know new realities of ministry are changing. 501c3 status changed, all the messiness. They would love your support and love as you're going to send them kids to go, young adults to go to their college and be a part of what's happening there. So, yeah, again, just plug in, see how God's doing it. Be a guide to someone that needs an Eli in their life, saying, "Hey, that was God speaking to you." Be a someone who would say, "Yeah, speak, sir, your servant's listening." So wherever you find yourself on the spectrum, we love it. Thank you for listening for Global Methodist Voices. We hope to have a podcast out each and every week with stories of God's faithfulness here in North Georgia. We believe He's at work here and to the very ends of the earth. We just have to open our eyes to see it. So we hope that you will listen to this one. Give us a like, share, follow. Make sure that if you heard this, you aren't the only one you know that heard it. So spread it with someone else. Let them know. And we hope you have a wonderful day. We hope you find God wherever you go, and you know that He is never far away from you. So have a great day, North Georgia, and to the very ends of the earth.